I came home early that Thursday afternoon, not because I was suspicious, not even close. Honestly, it was one of those gut things. I can't explain it. I'd wrapped up a meeting at work, glanced at the clock, and just felt off, like some invisible thread tugged at me. I told myself I was being dramatic, but I packed up and drove home anyway. The sun was still up when I pulled into the driveway, which was weird in itself. I couldn't remember the last time I'd seen the house in daylight on a weekday. Usually I came home to darkness, porch light on, Lisa either curled up on the couch with a glass of wine or finishing up dinner. But that day, the house was quiet, like eerily quiet. When I stepped inside, I immediately noticed the lights were dimmed in the living room, just the way Lisa liked it when she wanted to relax. Candles were lit too, the fancy lavender ones she usually only busted out for self-care nights. It looked peaceful, but Lisa wasn't on the couch. The TV wasn't on. No music, just silence. "Lisa," I called out, setting my keys on the entry table. Nothing. I stood there for a second, just listening. No footsteps, no shower running, no sound at all. Something felt off. I walked through the hallway toward the kitchen, and that's when I saw it. Her phone, sitting right there on the counter like a glowing red flag. Lisa never, ever left her phone unattended. It was practically a fifth limb. If it wasn't in her hand, it was face down on silent, glued to her side like a secret. But there it was, sitting face up, screen still lit from a message. I hesitated. I'm not proud of what I did next, but let's not pretend I'm some paragon of moral restraint. I looked, and I'm glad I did. The name didn't mean much to me. It was saved as something generic, just T. But the message hit me like a truck. Can't stop thinking about last night. You look so damn good. Still can't believe we got away with it. I didn't move. I didn't breathe. I just stood there staring at those words, watching them burn themselves into my brain. I didn't need more context. I didn't care who T was. It was the tone that got me. Too casual, too comfortable. Like this wasn't new. Like they'd done this before. Like it was normal. And Lisa? She just left her phone there, like she didn't even care if I saw it. Or maybe she wanted me to. The weirdest part was how numb I felt. You'd think I'd be angry, shouting, flipping tables, pacing the house looking for her. But I wasn't. Not yet. I just stood there in that perfect little kitchen we'd remodeled together last spring, feeling like the whole thing had been staged. The quartz countertops, the framed photo of us from Aruba on the fridge, the bowl of lemons that were probably just for show, none of it felt real anymore. Eventually, I picked up the phone and locked it. Just like that, the screen went black. The truth hidden again. But it was too late. I'd seen enough. I stood there in silence for what felt like an hour, my brain trying to reboot. I kept thinking, how long? Who was this guy? Was it someone I knew? And more than anything, why? That's when I heard the garage door. Lisa was home. My heart kicked up in my chest, like it had finally realized what my brain already knew. My life was about to change, and there was no going back. The door from the garage opened slowly, and she walked in, holding a shopping bag in one hand and her purse in the other. She looked surprised, but only for a second. Then her expression flattened, like she'd expected this. "Oh," she said, "you're home early." I looked at her, really looked at her, and something inside me cracked. She wasn't nervous. She wasn't flustered. She didn't stumble over her words or rush to explain anything. She didn't even look at the phone, still sitting exactly where she left it. She just watched me, and that's when I knew. This wasn't some accidental, heat-of-the-moment thing. This wasn't a mistake. It was deliberate, planned, ongoing. She wasn't caught off guard. She was caught, and somehow she didn't care. Lisa didn't say anything else at first. She just walked past me into the kitchen, like it was any other day, like I hadn't just had the floor ripped out from under me. She set the shopping bag down, some boutique she liked downtown, and reached for a glass from the cabinet. Her movements were too calm, too normal. That's what threw me. No apology. No panicked scrambling for an excuse. Nothing. She poured herself water and leaned against the counter, finally looking at me. "Did you see something?" she asked, not even trying to play dumb. There was no panic in her voice, not even guilt, just this matter-of-fact flatness, like we were talking about a parking ticket or a missed package delivery. She didn't look ashamed. She didn't even look sorry. If anything, She looked relieved. That threw me. I saw the message, I said quietly. She nodded slowly, like that confirmed something she'd already assumed. Okay. Just okay. Not I'm sorry. Not let me explain. Not it's not what you think. Just okay. I wanted to ask a million questions. Who is he? How long has this been going on? Why would you do this to me? To us? But my throat felt tight, like I couldn't get enough air. The words were there, but they wouldn't come out. Lisa took a sip of her water, still avoiding eye contact. I figured it would come out eventually, she said. I didn't think it'd be today, but she trailed off, shrugging like this was some inevitable mess we just have to sweep up together. I guess I didn't expect you to find out like that. The casual tone in her voice, it lit something in me. That low, steady burn in my chest was starting to flare into something hotter. I clenched my jaw and looked her dead in the eye. That's all you have to say? She sighed. I don't know what you want from me, Mark. A breakdown? Begging? Do you want me to cry? Would that make you feel better? I stared at her, stunned. Her face was calm, almost robotic. Not cold exactly, just distant. Like she'd emotionally packed her bag a long time ago. And this was just the final chore on her list. No, I said, I want you to care. She flinched just slightly, barely noticeable, but it was there. I did care, she said after a pause. But it's been over for a while, hasn't it? You just didn't see it. The words hit harder than I expected. I opened my mouth, but nothing came out. I didn't even know how to respond. She kept going, softer now. I thought maybe we'd just keep going like this. Drifting. I didn't want to hurt you, Mark. I didn't know how to end it. And there it was. Not regret. Not remorse. Convenience. She didn't want to hurt me. Not because she loved me, but because she didn't want to deal with the fallout. She was hoping I'd just keep floating along in ignorance, blissfully unaware while she lived a double life in the shadows. That was the moment it all started to crystallize. I had spent so long trying to hold things together, compromising, making space for her, putting her first. And here she was, casually admitting that she'd checked out and left me clinging to a version of our life that only existed in my head. I looked around the kitchen, the place we'd spent countless evenings cooking together, laughing, sharing late-night ice cream straight out of the tub, and I realized I didn't know who she was anymore. Or maybe I never really did. I can't believe this, I muttered, mostly to myself. Lisa tilted her head slightly. You always saw me as someone I'm not. I stared at her. What does that even mean? It means, she said, you thought I was this perfect, loyal person who'd never screw up. You put me on a pedestal I didn't ask for. And when I started feeling unhappy, I couldn't talk to you about it. Because I knew you wouldn't want to hear it. That's when the anger started to shift into something else. Grief, maybe. A hollow, aching kind of sadness. Because she wasn't wrong. I had put her on a pedestal. I'd idealized her. And in doing so, I'd blinded myself to the cracks forming between us. But that didn't justify what she did. You could have talked to me, I said, quieter now. You could have told me you were unhappy, that you needed something to change. I know, she said, but it felt easier not to. And there it was. That was Lisa in a nutshell. Avoidance disguised as grace. A quiet disaster dressed in soft smiles and non-answers. I don't know how long we stood there, the silence stretching between us like a chasm. I felt like I was looking at her from the other side of a glass wall, close enough to see every expression, every blink, but too far to reach her. Finally, she set her glass down and walked past me toward the stairs. I'm going to lie down, she said. We can talk more later, if you want. And then she was gone. Just like that. I stayed rooted in place, staring at the empty hallway, heart pounding in my ears. It wasn't just about the cheating. It was how casual it all was. How rehearsed. Like this was a conversation she'd already played out in her head a dozen times. Like my heartbreak had been budgeted in. And that's when I realized something that scared the hell out of me. She didn't expect me to leave. She expected me to forgive her, to swallow it, to adjust, to bend like I always had. Because in her mind, it was inevitable. But for the first time in years, I felt something shift inside me. Maybe I wasn't as predictable as she thought. That night, I didn't sleep. I laid in bed staring at the ceiling, watching the shadows from the streetlight dance across the room. Lisa had taken the guest room without asking. Not that I wanted her beside me, But the ease with which she made herself separate from me was something else. Like she'd rehearsed this too. At around 2:30 a.m., I gave up on sleep and went downstairs. The kitchen was still dimly lit from the under-cabinet lights, casting a soft glow over the room. It felt like walking through the aftermath of a storm, silent but heavy. And I realized I wasn't just in shock anymore. I was starting to unravel. Every little detail was turning into a knife. The mugs we picked out together, the playlist we used to listen to on weekend mornings, her jacket still hanging by the door like she hadn't torn a hole through everything. And once the stillness took over, the memories started rolling in. I remember the time she came home from a conference in Denver last October. How distant she'd been afterward. I'd asked if something was wrong, and she said she was just exhausted. I let it go. I didn't push. I wanted to be understanding, supportive. God, I was such an idiot. Or maybe just naive. Now I couldn't stop replaying all the little things I had brushed off as nothing. The sudden girls' nights she never used to have. The subtle way she always kept her phone face down. The moment she stopped kissing me goodbye in the mornings. It wasn't sudden. It was a slow leak I had ignored, hoping the dam would hold. I thought I was building trust. She was building a separate life. And the worst part? I think I saw it coming. Deep down, I think I knew. But I kept telling myself I was paranoid, that I was being insecure. I convinced myself she loved me. That love was enough. But love's not a shield. And sometimes, love isn't even real. Not the way you think it is. The more I thought about it, the more the pieces clicked into place. That trip to Chicago last spring, the one she said was for work, she'd been weird when I offered to drive her to the airport. Said a coworker was giving her a ride. That coworker. I never even asked for a name. Didn't think I had to. God, I was blind. I sat at the kitchen table until sunrise, watching the lights shift across the walls like time itself was trying to pull me out of this moment. But I couldn't move. Couldn't do anything but sit there and accept what I'd refused to see. This wasn't just an affair. It was a pattern. A slow, intentional unraveling of everything I thought we were. When Lisa finally came downstairs, she didn't look surprised to see me sitting there. Her hair was pulled back, no makeup, wearing the oversized sweatshirt I bought her last Christmas. She poured herself a cup of coffee like it was any other morning. "Did you sleep?" she asked. I shook my head. She nodded like she expected that. Silence. "I don't know what to say," she added after a moment, not looking at me. "That's because you already said everything without saying anything," I replied. My voice didn't even sound like mine. It was too quiet. Hollow. She leaned against the counter and sipped her coffee. "I never meant for this to happen." I scoffed. "You never meant to get caught, Lisa. That's the difference." Her lips parted like she wanted to argue, but she didn't. She just stared in her mug like maybe the bottom would offer a better answer than I ever could. "I don't even know when I lost you," I said, more to myself than her. "But I think you were already gone before I ever noticed." That made her flinch. "It wasn't about you," she said suddenly. "You were a good husband. You were steady. Kind. I don't know what I was looking for." I laughed bitterly. "You found it in someone else, though, didn't you?" She didn't answer, which told me everything I needed to know. I stood up, grabbing my jacket from the chair. I needed air. Space. Something that didn't smell like her perfume or remind me of a life that was turning to ash in front of me. "I'm not sure where this leaves us," I said as I headed for the door. "But I'm done pretending everything's fine." And I meant it. I didn't slam the door. I didn't yell. I just walked outside into the cold morning and let the numbness take over. I wandered for hours. Just me and the bitter wind and a head full of noise I couldn't turn off. I stopped at the coffee shop around the corner, the one we used to go to on Sundays. I sat in the back, half listening to conversations around me, half watching people who didn't know their lives could fall apart in a blink. I wanted to scream, or cry, or throw something, but I didn't, because all I could think was, how do you start over when the person you love the most is the one who undid you? When I got back home later that day, she was gone. Not permanently, just out. Her car was missing from the driveway. Maybe she was at work. Maybe she needed to clear her head too. I didn't care. I walked through the front door, and for the first time since this all started, I didn't feel like it was our home. It was just a house. Cold, quiet, full of echoes and things that didn't matter anymore. And that's when I knew. I wasn't waiting around for her to figure out what she wanted. I had to decide what I wanted. Because this slow decay, this quiet betrayal, it wasn't love. It was a lie I had lived in for far too long. The silence in the house had changed. It wasn't just empty now, it was suffocating. The kind of silence that pressed in on you, filled the gaps between every thought, made even the ticking of the hallway clock feel like a scream. Lisa and I had settled into this awkward, wordless routine since that morning in the kitchen. She came and went like nothing happened. She didn't bring it up, didn't try to apologize again, didn't cry. She didn't say much at all, and neither did I. But under that surface, something had shifted in me. The part of me that had been holding out hope, that kept imagining this might just be some twisted phase, that part was dead now. It died the moment I realized she was okay living like this. Pretending, coasting, waiting for me to either snap or forgive her. She never tried to fix it, because deep down, she didn't think she had to. She thought I'd stay. The thing is, I almost did. I'd built this life with her. 10 years of birthdays, late-night talks, road trips, inside jokes, lazy Sunday mornings. All of it. The weight of shared history is heavy, and for a while, it pinned me down. I told myself we could maybe go to therapy. Maybe hit reset. Maybe salvage what was left. But that voice, the one that begged me to hold on, was getting quieter by the day. And then it stopped altogether. It was Wednesday evening, almost a week since I'd seen that text. I came home from work and found Lisa on the couch, scrolling through her phone, laughing quietly at some video. She looked up and said, "Hey," like it was any other night, like the world hadn't cracked in half. I didn't respond, just stared at her. She looked relaxed, like she'd already decided we were just going to ride this out until it stopped feeling awkward. She had no idea I'd already made up my mind. That night, I pulled a manila envelope from the desk drawer in the office. Inside were the divorce papers. I'd had them drafted 2 days earlier. I didn't rush into it, not out of anger, not out of revenge, but because I'd thought it through. I wasn't going to scream. I wasn't going to beg her to explain herself again. I wasn't going to ask her to leave. I was just going to end it. She came into the kitchen while I was heating up leftovers. She leaned against the counter, phone still in hand, scrolling aimlessly. She looked at me like I was a stranger. "Do you want to watch something tonight?" She asked, like it was normal. Like we were normal. I walked past her, grabbed the envelope from the dining table, and slid it across the counter toward her. She stared at it, then at me. "What's this?" "You know what it is." She didn't touch it right away. Just looked down at it like it might explode. The corner of her lip twitched, like she was about to say something snarky, something to keep the upper hand, but it never came. "You're serious," she said. I nodded. "I've never been more serious." She stared at me like she was trying to figure out who I was. Like I'd suddenly turned into someone she didn't recognize. The irony wasn't lost on me. I'd been feeling like that about her for weeks. "You're really doing this?" she asked, voice quiet. "I already did," I said. "All that's left is your signature." She finally picked up the envelope and opened it. Her hands were shaking, but she tried to act like they weren't. She scanned the pages, her eyes moving quickly. Too quickly. She wasn't reading, just trying to process that this was real, that I wasn't bluffing. I leaned back against the counter, arms crossed, watching her, and then I saw it, that flicker of panic. Not because she regretted what she did, not because she suddenly realized she loved me, but because I was the one ending it. She thought she'd get to decide when this chapter closed. She thought I'd stay, stew in silence, and eventually forgive her. That's what I always did, right? Compromise. Let things slide. Choose peace. But not this time. This time I chose myself. "This is crazy," she said finally, shaking her head. "You're blowing everything up over one mistake." "One mistake," I repeated, laughing bitterly. "You didn't just trip and fall into someone else's bed, Lisa. This wasn't one night. It was lies, months of them. You don't get to minimize that." "I didn't mean for it to get that far," she muttered, setting the papers down like they burned her. "But it did," I said. "And you kept it going. You kept coming home, kissing me goodnight, acting like everything was fine. That's not a mistake. That's who you are." She blinked, like she didn't recognize the version of herself I was describing. Maybe she didn't. Maybe she still thought she was the victim in all this. But I wasn't interested in dissecting her self-image anymore. "What do you want me to say?" she whispered. "Nothing," I said. I don't need anything from you anymore. I left the room, went upstairs, and shut the door. I didn't slam it. I didn't say another word, because it was already done. That night, I didn't cry. I didn't spiral. I didn't even feel sad. What I felt was clarity. Lisa could keep pretending like this was salvageable, like she still held the cards. But the truth was, I'd already walked away. Now I was just waiting for her to realize it. It took her 2 more days to sign the papers. 2 days of walking on eggshells around the house, glancing at the envelope like it was a live grenade. She didn't bring it up again. I think she finally understood there was nothing left to say. I didn't push. I didn't plead. I just let the silence stretch between us until it said everything. Then, Saturday morning, I came downstairs and found the envelope on the kitchen table. Signed. Done. Her wedding ring sitting neatly on top. She wasn't in the house. Her car was gone, her closet mostly cleared out, and the keys to her car were missing from the hook by the door. No note, no text, just the quiet weight of an ending. I stared at the ring for a long time. It didn't feel like revenge. It didn't feel like triumph. It just felt done. The kind of done that doesn't need fireworks. Just a final breath. I put the envelope away and sat on the edge of the couch, elbows on my knees, staring at the floor. For the first time since everything fell apart, the house felt still. Not quiet in the heavy, suffocating way it had been, but calm. Free. And I think that's when it finally hit me. It wasn't just about what she did. It was about what I let happen. How long I clung to the version of us that only existed in my head. How much of myself I lost trying to protect something that had already been fading. Lisa didn't break me, but she did wake me up. The next few days were strange. I thought I'd be a wreck, sad, bitter, hollow. But mostly, I felt like I was breathing for the first time in years. The house was mine again. My mornings were mine again. I made coffee the way I liked it. I went for runs without checking in. I played music loud in the kitchen. Stupid things, maybe, but it felt like I was peeling off layers I didn't even know I was wearing. And with every layer gone, I found myself underneath. Not broken, just different. I started reaching out to old friends. People I'd lost touch with while I was wrapped up in keeping up appearances. One night, I even called my brother, someone I hadn't had a real conversation with in over a year, and we talked for 2 hours like we were kids again. I'd forgotten what it was like to be connected to people who actually wanted to be in my life, not just coexist beside me. Lisa texted once, maybe a week after she left. I hope you're okay. I stared at it for a while. I didn't answer. I wasn't angry anymore. I wasn't looking for an apology. And I sure as hell didn't want closure. Because closure isn't a conversation. It's a choice. And I'd already made mine. I didn't need her to explain anything else. I didn't need the why, or the how, or that it was a mistake. I didn't need to rehash the pain or try to make sense of it. It happened. She made her choice. And now, I was finally making mine. I was done loving someone who saw me as a convenience. I was done hoping for change that was never coming. I was done being the one who always forgave, always bent, always carried the weight for two. Now I was carrying my own, and it felt lighter than I ever thought it could.